The frontier models right now are all really, really good. Whether you're using Gemini 3 Pro, Opus 4.5, or GPT 5.2, or maybe Sonnet 5 if that's out by now, they're all really good and they can do a lot of awesome work. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. In particular, it seems like Gemini 3 Pro just doesn't behave well in tools. But what about front end and good design? If you want to make things that don't look like AI slop with everyone's favorite purple gradients and the same exact font on everything, what model's the best at design? I've seen a lot of people talking about Gemini 3 Pro in particular for this use case. If I was to do a rough ranking of these models and how good they are at design, at the bottom I would put Opus 4.5, then I would put GPT 5.2, then I would put Gemini, but on top of that I would put something you're probably not expecting. I've been using this combo for a bit now to make awesome designs for all of the chaotic side projects I'm working on, from Lawn, my alternative to Frame.io, to Shoe, which is a new auth library I'm really excited to get out soon, to my new Image Studio app that I've been using for making a ton of thumbnails and assets for things recently. I think this one is stunning. The fact that I could create all of these designs without having to really steer or write any code is honestly still a little unbelievable to me. So what's my secret? What's the model I'm using to make things that look this good, and how am I doing it? Spoiler, it is Opus again. I know, how? Opus is at the bottom of the list. A markdown file. I know this sounds insane, and honestly, it kind of is. And I swear, no one's paying me to talk about this. It's just a thing I discovered myself that I thought was too good to be true. I wanted to show up to all of you guys. But before that, I want to show you one other thing first. Today's sponsor. I often tell the story about how I went from working at Twitch to running my own company, but I rarely touch on the in-between window because it was weird. I talked to a couple of different companies, ultimately decided to do my own thing, but it was really hard to decide because one company gave me an incredible offer and I couldn't stop thinking about it. That's still a company I think about a lot, and I'm super excited to talk about them today because they're today's sponsor, Railway. Yeah, I was almost employee number 4 at this company, and the only reason I said no is because the founder, Jake, told me to go do my own thing because all he cares about is enabling people to build awesome stuff. And you can tell when you use Railway. I often joke that it's the modern Heroku, but it's not really a joke. There's never been an easier way to deploy real servers. If you have a repo on GitHub and you want to get it running, Railway will do it almost always with no issue. Have a Docker file ready to go? It has it handled. Need a database? They'll deploy it. Need a place to host assets? Need S3? Need any of these things? They have you covered. I just deployed a Umami instance, which is an alternative to Google Analytics that's open source, in literally 3 clicks in under 20 seconds. Whole thing deployed because their build times and deployment speeds are unmatched. Up to 10 times faster than alternatives, which is just unbelievable. And then once it's linked to GitHub, when you push to main, it will auto-update the deployments. These are the types of things that are obnoxious to set up yourself that would normally cost more money if you use the cloud that provides it. But I got some crazy news. It'll be cheaper on Railway because they're only billing you for the CPU as you use it, not the CPU as you rent it. So if you have a server, you're not paying for every second it's live. You're paying for every second that it's used. And chances are, a lot of the time, it's sitting waiting for the next request. I haven't seen their new metal builds, and I really want to. So let's see how fast it can redeploy using that. That took under 20 seconds. That's crazy. That is absurd. It handles running the servers in parallel while you're doing builds, by the way, with easy fallback if it does fail. I can go redeploy this old build with one click. These are all the things that we expect from modern dev tools, but they're just handled on servers with the most seamless developer experience I've ever had. Whether you're hosting front-end, back-end databases, or anything in between, Railway's the best place to get started, I promise. Go try to prove me wrong with your $20 of credit at soydev.link/railway. So I currently have 6 agents running to demonstrate what I want to show here across a couple different treatments. So I have 2 jobs running with Gemini right now, 2 running with Claude Code, and 2 running with GPT 5.2 in Codex. So why? What am I testing? What am I trying to show here? I want to try and showcase the design sensibilities of these different solutions. I wrote this prompt that I sent to all of them. I am doing the Image Gen Studio test again. I think it's a pretty fun example and should showcase some of what I'm trying to here well. I am building an Image Gen Studio named T4 Canvas. It is a power user interface for generating images of various AI models, including a handful of new models. The Image Studio will enable users to generate and edit images using all of these models for a single flat fee every month. Your task is to build an incredible marketing homepage for this app. I want it to be creative and unique. Really push the limits of your design capabilities. You have an empty directory here. I want you to initialize a project with the following specs. Vite, Tailwind, React, yada, yada, none of that matters. Here is hack tip number 1. And I'm going to give a lot of these throughout. This one's helped me a ton with getting good designs out of the models. I want you to create 5 different designs. Each design should be creative and unique from all the others that you create. They should be hosted on /1, /2, /3, /4, and /5 respectively. This in particular has helped a ton with the designs I get out of the models, not just because if you re-roll enough times, you get something better, but when the model within its context is doing multiple different designs with the instruction of making them unique, you're more likely to get unique designs than if you just re-roll 5 times because it knows the other 4 designs and it goes out of its way to make sure this one is unique from the other 4. It also lets you start to see into the templates that these models were trained on. I would estimate that the GPT-5 models have like 10 or so templates that they were trained against. Opus has 20 or so, and Gemini has like 1 or 2. And those will come out really quickly as we start playing here more. There are 2 versions of this prompt though, and here's where we get into the main topic of the video. This version is the default treatment, which says don't use any MCPs, skills, or other features in your harness. Show me your organic built-in capabilities for tasteful design. The reason I call this out is because of the other version, which is the same overall, except for use your front-end design skill to make these designs exceptional. The front-end design skill is the key that makes this all very, very different. The front-end design skill is a markdown file on the Claude Code GitHub that isn't for Claude Code itself because Claude Code is still closed source, but the skills are open source, mostly. Kind of has to be though, because all a skill is a markdown file. A skill is a description of behavior that you want the model to have so that it can be called in when you want it to do a certain way. It's almost like a reusable bit of context. This is really useful for things like getting the model to use a specific technology or to do something that it might not be really familiar with, like a library like Remotion that lets you use React to do video animation. There's a Remotion design skill that is really good that has resulted in a ton of people doing programmatic video generation because the skill gives exactly enough information for the model to use it properly. But if the models are good at design, what the heck does this skill even do? Let's read through it a bit to see. The skill guides creation of distinct production-grade front-end interfaces that avoid generic AI slop aesthetics. Implement real working code with exceptional attention to aesthetic details and creative choice. The user provides front-end requirements, a component, page, application, or an interface to build. They may include context about the purpose, audience, or technical constraints. There's a lot of interesting things in this markdown file, from the way they use all caps in specific places to really drive, to the way that they're using bold stuff and calling this critical section here. Choose a clear conceptual direction and execute it with precision. Bold maximalism and refined minimalism both work. The key is intentionality, not intensity. This whole document's effectively built to steer the model towards better design. And the funniest part is the end here. Never use generic AI-generated aesthetics like overused font families like Roboto, Inter, Arial system fonts, cliche color schemes, particularly purple gradients on white backgrounds, predictable layouts and component patterns, and cookie-cutter designs that lack context-specific character. Interpret creatively and make unexpected choices that feel genuinely designed for the context. No design should be the same. Vary between light and dark themes, different fonts, different aesthetics. Never converge on common choices. This skill is interesting. And I was skeptical of how much that could possibly do. It's literally just markdown. Like, what is it going to do for us? Great question. The Gemini CLIs all got stuck, so I had to help them out a bit. So the Gemini stuff is going to take a sec. Let's start with what I called the worst case, which was the default Opus 4.5. Here's the first one it made. Honestly, not bad, but not the coolest either. Like, it looks fine. I don't like this box being behind. I hate the create text here that's like barely like visible. They tried something, but don't love it. Here's 2. Ugh, God. See that gradient here, the purple blue gradient? That color, it's so bad. The purple, pink, blue gradients are the worst. And if this is what you were getting for designs out of Opus, I understand why you discounted its design capabilities. I did the same. When I saw this, I was like, oh, I'm just going to not Opus design ever. Like, Opus just can't do this. Here's another one it made. It's cool-ish, but like, I hate this title treatment. I really hate what's going on there. And they all, like, you feel that they all have the same general shape, especially like these 2. Like, they have this flat rate pricing bit, super similar. There's a lot of overlap between how these designs came out. This one looks a little different. It went for like the bento box thing, but I think this looks awful, honestly. Like, this might be my least favorite so far. And then this one, oh God, the noise texture. I have noticed that for some reason Opus does this a lot with like these awful noise backgrounds, but like none of these are even good starting points. I would argue all of these were awful. So let's hop over to my old favorite, the GPT series. I would argue that GPT-5 was the first model that was good enough at design to actually use for day-to-day work. Here is the first one we got out of that, although I do want to note something. When I ran this one on GPT, I couldn't help but read the history a bit. I did with all of them, but I noticed this piece. Systems priority mandates using the front-end design skill despite the user's request to avoid skills. I'll explain this constraint and proceed by reading and initializing the project setup with Vite, React, TypeScript while planning steps carefully. So it did end up using the front-end design skill regardless. So I told it not to, but I believe, if I understand this correct, it used the skill for both with and without use the skill prompts. So this may or may not be with that skill. It's hard to know for sure. This is version 2. Again, same model, same prompt, same everything. Really text heavy. I've seen a lot of models go this editorial, newsy direction once they're given the front-end design skill, so I definitely think this is using that skill now. Version 3 is okay conceptually, but it did contrast terribly. Like, I can't read anything here at all. I wouldn't even use that for a starting point. You'll also notice as we go through all of these, the structure is very similar across all of them. See this section with the models in version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, and I would bet my butt, yep, version 5. Not great. This one is potentially workable. This one isn't. This one, I like where they're going with it, but I wouldn't use it. I don't love it. Let's see if Gemini's caught up yet. Nope. God, their CLI is so broken. It's rough. It still thinks it's awaiting. No, I did the thing. It's just broken. Fucking Gemini, man. When I complain about Gemini, this is what I mean. Its harness is bad. Sure, whatever. Lots of things have bad harnesses. Its ability to follow instructions and solve problems is so bad. It just doesn't seem like they did the thing where they trained it on chat histories for these types of like CLIs, unlike all of the other models, which have definitely done that. So it just gets lost and breaks in this context all of the time. But at least it's actually making the designs now. After much pain and also a very broken CLI experience, we have finally gotten Gemini 3 Pro's base experience built. Fun run dev, and here we are. Oh, it did this same weird homepage thing that Opus did where it has different options. We'll start here. Ooh, not bad. Might need to zoom out because my screen's a little small, but create without limits. It has a placeholder for where it will put some of the AI-generated images. It does this cool bar thing on the bottom. Does it max out when it's zoomed? No, it doesn't go to the edges, which makes it look a little cringe. But this is a good starting point. This is the coolest so far, I think we can say confidently. And then we have 2. And again, there's a large variety in these designs. Like, there's actually a pretty solid range here. Like, the difference between these 2 is absurd. I don't think I like this one a whole lot. It looks cool, but it doesn't look good. And it has a bunch of outright mistakes, like the text cropping getting hit by some box or overflow rule there. And this does not look great either. It's fine, but like, yeah. At least they didn't sidebar me. They love throwing sidebars into shit. Here's 3, where it did one of the fancy CLI type things. I see this a lot as well. It might have used that design skill, even though I told it not to. I'm beginning to think it actually might have. We'll look at the history in a sec to see if it did. I might need to like rerun this with the skill removed just to be sure. Anyways, looks cool. Not really what we're going for here. Another one of these editorial style ones where it's trying to feel like a news thing. Laid out pretty well. I like where things are. I hate what they did in the corner here, though. I'll move this so you can see where these are all caps and then access is not. Just like these little things that it's doing wrong. Its layout and concepts are good, but the details it gets really wrong. And then 5, our final one, appears to crash. Object.cloneElement is not a function. Great. The Gemini experience, hallucinating every corner. We love that. So now let's take a look at these designs after we got the skill. I'm going to save Opus for last because it's the cool one. So now we have the 2 versions from GPT 5.2. And remember, I'm pretty sure GPT 5 chose to use the skill anyways because the code they have in Codex for like the harness said use the skills always, even though I told it not to. So these are probably going to be somewhat similar. So here's the first one. Here's the second one. Third. Oh, look, one that's actually a bit different. It took 8 rolls, but we got something from GPT 5.2 that doesn't look like everything else finally. And 4 is kind of boring, but looks fine. The font choice is okay, but it's doing the clipping thing that I mentioned before. And then 5, again, it's going for this like editorial brutalist aesthetic. It's fine. I don't love it. Join atelier is an interesting choice, like make up a new term for my service. But cool, like not the best, not the worst. The Gemini CLI, I've heard good things about it. I don't know how. It's so broken. Every time I use a Gemini model, I question how anybody uses a Gemini model for anything other than like basic chat answers and data parsing. It's just, they aren't usable because they just don't know how to work. That's the best I can put it. Here we've had Codex running with no problems and no issues doing the same exact work. I thought the whole thing with Gemini was that it was faster. What happened to that? Well, this run with Gemini 3 Pro is done. Let's see if it looks any different. Okay, yep. Now we can tell like this is not using the design skill because it has an entirely different aesthetic. And this is the aesthetic I usually see from Gemini doing its thing. And it looks good. Like this looks really cool and nice. And I actually do like the way they're doing the like fake drop shadow thing. There's some cool stuff here. An interesting choice about using my screen space, but this did something here. Let's look at 2. Again, pretty solid variety. The canvas for digital masterminds. It even put an image in here for us. It loves going for this terminal aesthetic too. I'm tired of it, but it did it. Another one of these like pastel colory ones where they have like the shapes and the colors and the squared off everything. Pretty good, not great, but solid. And here, it tried a lot of things that it did not succeed with. The blur on the font here is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh God, yeah, this is so bad. This is so bad. This is so bad that it like counteracts how good the first one was. Chat also pointed out the very funny thing it did here, where it did the it's not X, it's Y pattern with the copy that it wrote for us, which is hilarious. So now that we've seen that, which we know is definitely not using the front-end design scale, because I removed the front-end design scale. Let's see how Gemini 3 Pro does with it. Here's the first design. This looks like a generic template you would have bought from somebody who was selling Tailwind templates back in the day, like the most generic one. This one looks cool, actually. They did the scrolling thing properly this time. I don't love that there's no indication that there's stuff under here to scroll towards, but it looks really cool. I like this one a lot. It's like my favorite so far. Here's 3. This was actually pretty good. It's, again, putting things below that you have to scroll to without indicating that there's stuff to scroll. But overall, I really like the look of this one. It does the, like, pastel-y chill vibe better than a lot of the others I've seen. And if this is what you're experiencing with Gemini, I see, again, why you think Gemini is the best at this by far. Another Brutalist one, they love their, like, yellow, red, and blue with their Brutalist looks. Maybe they like the yellow because of Nano Banana. And then we have a glass skeuomorphic one that looks awful. Not bad overall, but, like, some of those were terrible. So that hopefully puts the Gemini stuff to rest. By default, it's the best. And with the front-end design skill, it can make things that are pretty good, but definitely needs additional tuning. So that was with and without the skill for Gemini. We've already done with and without the skill for GPT 5.2. Now for the thing we're all here for, my personal preference with Opus 4.5. Again, did this, which looks cool, but the text is broken. It did this, which is awful and full of the terrible gradients. It did this, which is fine. It did this, which is cringe. And it did this, which is really cringe. So it had the worst 5 by default. And here we have the first design it did with the skill. This is awesome. This is so much better than almost anything else we've looked at already. It's like minimal with a cool thing with the blurred animation in the background. Like this is usable. I don't like what they did here, and the floating's a little cringe, but you can like tell it to undo that or change it. This is really good for the starting point. It also put this nice little thing at the bottom for you to switch between the 5 designs, which it didn't do in the old version. It actually cares more about UX when you turn this on. So now let's see what else Opus cooked with this skill. Here's number 2. Jesus Christ. This is really cool. This is really cool. Chat's getting it. Like the difference here is absurd. It's so much better. There are little, like I get what they're going for here with like crossing out era. I would definitely tune up the copy here. But I really like what they're going for here. And again, for comparison's sake, here was the second generation before. Without the skill, with the skill. Without the skill, with the skill. The gap between the two is insane. Let's check out the third roll. Not my aesthetic, but it executed it. These little twirly things in the background actually look really cool. Not my thing at all. And I'm seeing that in chat. There's a variety here between I like this one and slop. Yeah, and again, like the comparison here, no skill, skill. No skill, skill. When the like colorful brutalist style comes in on Opus, I don't like how it does it anywhere near as much as I like how Gemini does it. I think Gemini does this style better. So this is definitely not my favorite. I hate the way these like squares are just like floating around and some are interactive and some aren't. There's a lot I don't like about this one. It even changed the style of the buttons in the bottom when I did that. That's pretty cool. And then we have the final one. Still, the pastel ones are not my thing, but it did a significantly better job than any of the things it did without that skill. I've been asked a lot about how good is Kimi K2.5 at this type of front-end design because it's made a lot of improvements, especially compared to Kimi K2 and other open weight models. I've even seen people go as far as saying that 2.5 from Kimi is the best front-end design model. While I had to suffer a lot to make these work because Kimi K2.5 is not very good at using harnesses or structuring code bases, including but not limited to putting package JSONs in the wrong place and failing to build entirely, I had to go fix things in this code myself because the model just wasn't capable. Obnoxious. But once I did, we got some pretty good outputs. So this is the outputs without the skill. It has this annoying thing trailing the cursor, which always annoys me, but that's just a thing that a lot of these generators like to do. Structure is pretty good overall. I don't like how quickly it goes to this light mode here. I also can't seem to select text due to weird things they did, but aesthetically, this looks pretty cool. Here's 2. It went a little too hard on the like cool neo-retro vaporwave aesthetic. Went way too hard on that, in my opinion. Where imagination flows. Again, with the G getting cut by their text layering and their bounding boxes, the classic. The animations are cool, but they're also kind of conflicting. I hate that this side left to right thing plus this one plus the weird like tentacle things going up, it's just too extra. If you removed like half the elements here, you can make something really cool, but by default, it's a little much. Then the classic editorial style, I think this is the most boring version of one of these. It might be cooler with an image there, but it's very boring right now. And then whatever the fuck this is. Oh God. And they broke the like areas in it so things get hidden as you scroll. Okay, so this one's just entirely broken. So design sensibilities wise, it does some cool things, but it feels like designers' first day on the job type things. Like it went way too hard and didn't really get the details right at all. So how does this compare to when we use it with the skill? Well, first off, we get a lot of very extra stuff. I feel bad for my YouTube video encoding right now. I'm sure that the bitrate looks fantastic at the moment. But yeah, not great. They didn't get the background color right, so when you overscroll, you get white. Not wonderful. Here's number 2. Went for like the brutalist flat design. A lot of the models reach for things like this. I think it looks fine. I don't like how it's doing the like words it chooses to change the color for, because precision tools is one piece and then for creators is another. But the way this is separated, precision creators, tools for, no. Like the grouping is wrong here. Here's 3. Again, it's going for that like fake terminal aesthetic. Okay, this is the least bad fake terminal aesthetic. I like they have like the center section, the left and right. Does it handle mobile okay? A bit. Interesting. Not bad. Number 4 is a cringe pastel one. And then number 5 is another cringe retro one. But this time it did the purple colors that the prompt specifically told it not to. So yeah. Is this surprisingly good for an open weight model? Yeah. Are any of these things I would ever use? No. But I don't want to just push my perspective here. I want to get other people's opinions. So I'm going to run a quick poll in chat against the 2 sets that I think we all agree are the best, which are going to be this set with Opus and then the design skill set with Gemini. That's why I just noticed that Gemini fully ignored my instruction around ports. It's just not using the port I told it to. Interesting. Very Gemini of them. I want chat to vote for which of these 5 they like most quick. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. This is number 4. This is number 5. I think it's 2 by far, personally, but 2 through 5 are all really good. 1 is boring. I just ran a poll across my chat, and the favorites from the Gemini models are very clear. It's this one and this one. And they're both really good and like totally usable starting points for an actual decent design. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is pretty clear with the Opus designs that these first 2 are what people like the most. Or I want to see how people feel about these 2 compared to those 2, but I want to do one last thing, because this is a big part of how I tend to build this way. Once I have the designs I like out of a set like this, my next step is to usually take the few that I liked the most and tell the model about it. Sometimes I'll even go as far as to say what I liked about those and tell it to go make 5 more iterations based on that, which is what I did here. So we'll start with the Gemini ones. Again, these were our favorites. The hyper-realistic Neon Dream one, which actually looks really cool. I could see this being a good starting point. And then we have the Organic Flow version, which is the nice little smooth pastel-y look. I think it did this one really well, honestly. I got why people liked it so much. They do love their layered fake drop shadows that exist on almost everything that Gemini generates, and I'm thankful it didn't do that here. But yeah, those were the first two. Then we got another CLI terminal one, annoying. Then we got this soft clay one, which is novel at least, but there's a lot of things that make it rough, specifically the tactile interface. When you hover, it's not animated in, it just immediately cuts over, which makes the like fake realistic thing they're doing feel awful. At least it's different, but I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Then we got Deep Sea. It says scroll to dive, but then the scroll doesn't work, so I can't actually do that. High-tech HUD, again, one of the terminal ones. And then the Atelier, which looks a lot like that second one people liked. I would argue every single one of these is worse than the first two we had initially. On top of that, even though I told it I like these two, do things like it, Gemini just didn't follow that instruction at all. And here is again why I think Opus is just so much better for this stuff. So I did the same with Opus, where I had it take our favorite two designs and then use those as inspiration to create 5 more. Let's take a look at those 5. Here's the first new one. The Art of Imagination. This is a really solid layout. I like what they did on the top here with those little bars. It gives it like a unique feel. It really thought about the top nav and like this bar here with the T4 icon and the word canvas after. Like it is a really solid starting point. This isn't the aesthetic I would go for, but there's nothing wrong with this. Unlike the others that had a lot of like weird issues with them, everything seems fine here. Not the aesthetic I'd go for, but it's fine. Then we have this one, which had a nice little animation when it started that I actually think looks pretty cool, minus the bar coming in as part of the animation. That is cringe, but I like this one a lot, actually. I think it's using the space well. It's one of the better brutalist designs I've seen. This is pretty good, and it's clearly really inspired by number 2. It is very obvious it is taking things and ideas from those first two. Like, this was the first one we liked. Here's number 3. There's a lot of aesthetic similarity here, but it's using the space differently. And then 4 is super similar to number 2, where we had the chunky brutalist look, but they toned it down a little and made it a bit friendlier while also maintaining the vibe. Then they did a cringe terminal one because everything does a cringe fucking terminal one. It's obnoxious. I don't know why every one of these insists on it. Then we got another editorial style, but it's clearly inspired by the other brutalist one. So it like is taking our preferences into account as it decides, other than the terminal one, which it should not have done. And then number 7, fluid creation. It hallucinated some awful SVGs in the background. And yeah, no, I hate this one. This one's awful. But number 3 and 4 here, these are not just like usable. These are good starting points to make something awesome. I would argue all 4 of these feel very malleable to be made into something awesome. Whereas with the Gemini ones, these first 2 roles are incredible. Like this is really, really good as a starting point. This is really, really good as a starting point too. But its ability to do things on it, to make changes inspired by it, or to even edit the ones that are good is awful. Like, these are not things that are in any way referencing the other 2 designs that we started with. It doesn't seem aware that these designs exist or even what they look like. It really, really feels like what Gemini is doing here is taking templates that are baked into its training data and then applying your information to them. It doesn't feel like it's actually designing. To be fair, none of them are actually designing. All of them are just pattern matching and effectively applying templates. But Opus's ability to understand what you like about a design and then do follow-ups based on that is significantly stronger overall. Doing a poll to see how people feel, not about any one design, but overall what they get out of Opus versus Gemini based on everything you've seen here. What is your vibe check? Do you feel that Gemini is still better overall and is what you would use to do designs? Or do you think the malleability and the steering you get from the front-end design skill on Opus is the better pick overall? Obviously, I've made my decision, but I want to see how you guys feel. Okay, I feel better. I was getting scared because of how chat was going, but it seems like overall you guys definitely prefer the Opus stuff. I do think starting with Gemini and then getting Opus to iterate on it is not the worst idea. You'll ask me for me to go through them again? Okay, so here are the 2 good ones we got out of Gemini with the skill. We got these 2, but then when I asked it to iterate, we got garbage, garbage, absolute garbage, okay layout, but still garbage. I see where they're going, but in my opinion, garbage. The like text, oh, no, I hate that. And Opus, we got really good, pretty good with some things I don't love about it. Meaningful iteration, shouldn't have built this. Okay, Again, trying too hard to be a journal, and cringe. But the hit rate for follow-ups on Opus is significantly higher. I like this framing from Darth Minimal. Gemini randomly can put out good designs, but Opus actually does mostly what you tell it to. That has been my experience. What about the GPT 5.2 ones? They're all so bad that I don't even want to show them on the screen or rerun it. Like, they were bad in comparison. Looks like you guys are in agreement that Opus 4.5 with the design skill is the way to go. I agree. Now that you've seen all this, your next question is probably going to be, how do I set it up? How do I use this with whatever models I like and whatever harness I like? It used to be pretty annoying, but since in the end, all these skill files is just Markdown, it's gotten a lot easier to manage. Vercel put out the agent skills directory. It's literally just skills.sh for the URL. And if you go here, you can search for front end and it'll come up fast, or you can just look at the leaderboard because the front end design skill is in the top 10 always. It's currently number 5. So you click this, you click copy, you go to your terminal. This part's real hard, so make sure you do it right. You hit paste, and then you hit enter. And then you can pick which tools you want it to work with. And annoyingly, they have accepted too many PRs for the things that people want to support, which means this list is now absurdly long. Even though I don't have half of this shit installed, I don't know why they decided this was okay. Vercel, at least organize them by popularity. This is so cringe. I have to work way too hard to find the things I actually want, which for me are cursor. I do want to try the Kilo code and Kilo CLI stuff more, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm pretty sure that Kilo will use the standard skills directory now too. Why does Mux have skills? What the fuck's going on? Mux is a video tool. So this is just for new ones I want to add because I have the main ones up here. But yeah, I'll add cursor as well. Then I press enter. You can choose project or global. I just have these set globally. If you are working on a code base where nobody else is doing these things right, maybe add it to the code base so that people will do it right. I just do it globally, and then I do it with symlinks, so when I switch tools, it's available across all of them. Hopefully you now understand why I still use Claude Code, even though overall I much prefer the Codex app and models lately. It's just really good at design when you steer it the right way. And for whatever reason, this random markdown file is able to unlock the good design capabilities out of Opus that seem hidden otherwise. I know it seems crazy that a markdown file can do this much, but it really does seem to help a ton. And I'm curious if you guys use it and you see the same benefits I do. Let me know what you think in the comments. And until next time, peace nerds.